Shall we talk about Jimmy Anderson? Shall we talk about the English view of Jimmy Anderson? And then we'll talk about the worldwide view of Jimmy Anderson. Let's start with the English view. Bumble. Jimmy has announced that the West Indies Test match of Lords will be his final.
Yeah.
Where do you rate him amongst all the great English fast bowlers that you've ever seen?
Well, right at the very top, and just the way that his career has evolved from being a tear away 90 mile an hour all over the place to refine an action to be the type of bowler, and let's say like McGrath, like Pollock, real quick when they started, and they'll just refine it and back off with movement and deadly accuracy. And he's developed that both, and the longevity is incredible. And again, we'll talk about that and how come. He is very similar, in my opinion, to Brian Statham, who I actually was captain by. Brian Statham, 2,200 first-class wickets at 16s, said nothing. Absolutely nothing from Brian Statham in the changing room. Very, very quiet. And he reminds me so much of Jimmy Anderson. They're just the same. You know, they're such quiet people in the dressing room and away from the game. But in answer to your question, I think he is right up there, the very pinnacle, the best.
So you've got him ahead of Truman?
And yeah, well, Fred was a trailblazer. First to 300 Test match wickets.
First proper quick bowler, really, like who game after game did what he needed to do.
And is such a character who left his mark on the game way beyond his playing career.
But if you've got to pick one fast bowler for England, you're picking Jimmy ahead of him.
I'm picking. Oh yeah, I am. Yeah, and another that I'm right up there is Willis.
Yeah,
because at 6'7", rapid can hurt you.
So as an opening batter,
yeah,
who would you least like to face? Willis, Truman, Anderson?
Willis.
But you would still have maybe
you're asking me the question there. You know, I had a massive problem when I played. I had lots of problems when I played, but the one outstanding
not wearing a
problem,
helmet, probably wasn't
as an opening batter, if they were incredibly tall, Joel Garner, I thought, crikey, this bloke's going to tread on me. As soon as that front foot came up, and I sort of momentarily took a step back. And Willis was the same. I played against him in county cricket. David Lloyd, who was a fast bowler briefly at Northampton, incredibly tall. And I struggled with them when they were really, really quick. Now, one I didn't struggle with, you won't believe this, I quite like batting against Malcolm Marshall. Yeah, because he wasn't as big as the other guys. Yeah.
Would you agree? Anderson above any other English bowler?
I mean,
ever?
The problem is, and I know you hate talking about pre-World War II, but Sid Barnes obviously has a bowling average.
Oh, come on, never mind Sid Barnes.
But people...
You don't mean Jimmy Barnes, do you?
But when you have a look at his record, I think he averages something like 8 against South Africa and something like 21 against Australia.
Uncovered pitches?
Uncovered pitches and on synthetic pitches. He played a Manning against South Africa. It wasn't even uncovered. Yeah. So I think you have to take him out of any conversation.
Okay.
Right? And if you take him out of any conversation, I think you could make a very good case for Truman to be the best England bowler of all time.
And
a very good case for Anderson to be the best bowler of all time. And it probably depends on your views on longevity.
Yeah.
Right? And the way that I would look at it is with Anderson, you had a great bowler for such a long period of time who never really wavered, that you probably would go him over Truman. But if you were picking an 11, Truman was faster for longer, right, and could rough you up for longer. And so at the end of his career, Anderson was just line and length. He had one incredible weapon, whereas I think Truman probably had a couple more weapons. So if you were picking 11, you might pick Truman over Anderson, but if you're picking the best bowler, you probably pick Anderson over Truman.
Well, again, you're looking at a mix of an attack. What's your attack?
Yeah,
you want a varied attack.
You?
Yeah, you can't say he's going to bowl at both ends.
Jimmy's into the wind in that. Truman's getting down breeze, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. and I think that'd be sensible as well.
Yeah,
that'd be the right way.
And then Bob comes on first change and bowls really tall, and Bumble gets flashbacks.
Yeah.
How's Anderson viewed overseas then? I mean, we'll say here, we've just had an argument about whether he is the greatest, and I think you both agreed that if he's not number one, he's certainly in the top two. Definitely three.
Yeah.
Definitely is in the all-time England 11 bowling attack. Overseas, I mean, this is a guy that's won an Ashes in Australia. He's won a series in India, or been part of teams. He's won all over the world. Will they, do cricket fans in Australia and India and the West Indies, do they look at Anderson as up there with the very best of the fast bowlers that they produced?
I don't know if you remember, but he blocked certain phrases on Twitter from coming into his mentions, and one of them was the word Clouderson, because it became so big, especially amongst Indians, to say, oh, he only bowls when it's overcast, which we all know is pretty ridiculous anyway. I think I would probably never see another human being take more wickets in my life than I've seen Jimmy Anderson take wickets. So I've certainly seen him take wickets on some pretty sunny days and be unplayable. But you understand also where that's coming from. He is in England. Bumble would know so many great English county bowlers who are unplayable in England, and then they played, international cricket for England, and they just looked like they didn't have the pace or anything else. And at times Anderson was in that. And I think there's that part of it. I think the other thing is he didn't actually bowl that many overs per game overseas, and he didn't take that many wickets per game overseas. His average actually holds up pretty well traveling, right? But you've got that. The third thing that I think hurts his case is that his career directly overlaps with Dale Steyn. And Dale Steyn is brilliant. And I think the only place that Dale Steyn didn't bowl brilliantly was probably England, which is weird because
he's a different bowler. He's quicker.
Yeah, completely different bowler.
Much quicker.
But the point is that Dale Steyn bowled in probably one of the toughest eras that bowlers have ever gone in against, and has an average that goes up there with that sort of Malcolm Marshall, level, right? Yeah. And to be fair to Marshall did it on a bit more friendly pitches than Dale Steyn managed to do. Although at home Dale Steyn has a pretty good wickets as well. But so I think you've got all those different things coming in, and for the first 10 years of his career, he averages high 20s, even low 30s I think at one stage his career arc over the first 10 years was almost identical to Matthew Hoggart, right? And then it's that next 10 years when Anderson just goes into that Richard Hadley level of just, no one's ever going to hit me, I'm just going to bowl like this. Over time, he started to get to that level. And as Steyn retires and Anderson keeps going, I think internationally he gets more respect. But he probably was never the international force that McGrath and Steyn and Curtly Ambrose were everywhere, right? And I think we have to be honest with that. He probably doesn't have that kind of impact. So from an international level, I still think he's an international great. You can't take that many wickets without being an international great. But is he on that sort of Marshall, Lilly, McGrath, that kind of level? Probably for most international fans, he's just that tier below.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that, but any negative from overseas about Anderson, I would just see as breeze. It's just noise. Steyn was a totally different bowler. Yeah. I disregarded any criticism of Anderson. He is what he is. Yeah. And I agree with what Jarrod has said, that not just as potent away from England, but that's the style of bowling. That's the type of bowler that he was.
He still had some great moments away from England, though.
He had fantastic moments and carried the attack. He led the attack, carries the attack.
And you look at Indian and Australian fan base is the loudest against it, right? Well, there are a lot of Australian batters who've never made any runs overseas, and they're still venerated. Walters and Warner, sorry. And then India, I've got Ashwin at the same time. Ashwin and
they don't even play him overseas.
Yeah, Ashwin and Anderson are quite similar, right? Like in their conditions, you might as well not play against them. In other conditions, they will give you a battle, but they may not always be at that world-beating level. But let's be honest, they in the last 10 years, who you would almost pick those two as your two best bowlers, right? But they're not as well-rounded as some of the other bowlers that we've talked about.
So who replaces Anderson then, guys? Next year, England will be playing
India, Australia.
India. So let's say first test against India, 2025. Let's just say it's at Edgbaston.
Okay.
Or Lords, doesn't really matter.
Graham Onions. Do you remember when Graham Onions was going to be?
He's not playing, surely.
No, but do you remember when he was going to be the replacement? That's how long Anderson's career is. At one stage, they were like, Onions will take over from Anderson when he retires. We can't even remember onions anymore.
Well, it's the same as Chris Wokes, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like Chris Wokes.
I thought he was going to retire before Anderson for a while. First test against India, 2025. Who opens the bowling for England? And first test against Australia, 2025. Probably Perth rather than the Gabba. Who opens the bowling for England? And as a caveat, I will sadly have to say you cannot choose Jofra Archer.
Oh, come on. I've been on all night doing this. I did all my prep, and my first name was Jofra Archer. Why can't we have Jofra Archer?
Well, we haven't seen Jofra play a test match since when? 2019?
No. Okay. No, I'm just blown
So I would
away
love
now.
to have Jofra Archer. Well, okay. All right, well, who's your opening bowler with Jofra and your first change? Essentially, it's...
Is Mark Wood going to be around then?
He's not going to get the new ball anyway, though, is he?
He's signed a 3-year deal.
Maybe at Perth Stadium he might get the new ball.
Yeah, but age-wise, he's no spring chicken.
He's old.
Signed a 3-year deal this year, so he better be.
He's old and he's often injured. I actually think him and Ryan Harris, I can't believe they've played as much cricket as they did, because both of those guys I thought it's just never going to happen for them. He probably doesn't get the new ball in Perth Stadium anyway, if we're talking about Ash. But if we go India.
Yeah, India first.
So Ollie Robertson has to be the guy taking the new ball, doesn't he?
Really?
Is he not the best bowler that England have with a new ball?
Gus Atkinson for me.
But is he a new ball bowler or is he a first change guy?
I see him as the opening bowler to take over from Anderson.
Really?
Yeah, I do. And he's about the same pace, a little bit quicker, gets tight in, tall enough, bowls a great line and length and gets movement. I think he'll get better and better the more that he plays. And I first saw him in the International Premier League in Dubai and Sharjah last year. And I tell you, I must have mentioned it before. So I'm with Ian Bishop, Wasim Akram, Waqar Younis, Simon Dool. And when Gus Atkinson turned up, they all said, "Who's this?" And so they were all impressed. So I'm going Gus Atkinson. And other candidates...
What about Potts?
Potts is roundabout. Ollie Stone gives you that bit of extra pace, and he's just played again, but we're into the realms of he's always injured. We say that about so many.
So you don't want Robertson at all?
He's roundabout. He's got a little bit to do. His problem
is obviously his fitness and
he's got a bit to do.
Yeah.
I don't know the guy at all. He's had a decent record at times. He's quite useful with a bat. My impression is you get impressions. The penny hasn't dropped yet.
I think that's
what
fair.
International cricket's all about. There's a fair amount of sacrifice that you've got to do. And it's hard work, and we're talking about a part of the game which is really hard work, fast bowling, opening the bowling, the strain on your body and so on. And you will get injured, that's what we're going to talk about. And so you want a full cupboard of fast bowlers. You want plenty that you can choose from.
Well, they're trying to copy the baseball style, aren't they?
Yeah. You need, and Josh Tongue played a little bit. Where's he?
Yeah.
Is he injured?
Oh, he's an interesting one as well. So here's my issue. You've gone with Atkinson, Stone, and Wood. None of those are English condition bowlers for me. And that first test against India is going to be here.
I think Atkinson is an English style.
But he might develop into it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he's there at the moment.
Yeah.
But
that's the same as Jimmy Anderson first started.
No, for a long time. So I think that's fair. But if you want one guy who can make that new ball sing, and I don't know if it's either Robinson or Potts, right? And I don't know if Potts is still at that level anymore.
Chris Wokes?
The problem with Chris Wokes is the minute they have to...
Player of the series against Australia?
Yeah.
But what if when they have to tour?
English star bowler?
Age.
But also, if he has to tour, like he hasn't worked out how to bowl away from England yet, right?
So, England play Wokes at home. I mean, does
you
Robinson...
can't do that anymore, though, can you?
Well, they've just done it.
Potts got good raps at the start of the season. I know it's in April in freezing cold conditions, but Potts is well thought of. Robinson is well thought of, but it's got to click with him. This is what's required. This is how you do it.
He has such a high ceiling, Ollie Robertson, but he has a really low floor because sometimes you can't get a third spell out of him, right? And so from a test match perspective, if Ben Stokes can't bowl and isn't bowling, they need 4 bowlers who can bowl 25 overs a day. And can Ollie Robertson do that at the moment? Probably not. But is he the most likely to have a team, 15 for 3? Yes. Right.
I want some pace. You've got to have something that will disturb a batting lineup.
Yeah.
In your opening bowlers?
Yeah, in my opening. Yeah, I want some pace. I go back to Brett Lee, Shoaib Akhtar. I want some pace. A batter is going to just have a sleepless night or two, rather than this guy at 78 miles an hour is going to drag me outside the off stump. I've got to be careful. I want somebody who's going to think that this bloke can seriously get into me.
Yeah, but you're going to have Atkinson at the other end, and you've got Ollie Stone and Mark Wood as your first change.
Yeah.
Atkinson hasn't even played a test yet.
No, he will do.
I think he's
a Surrey man, for crying out loud.
He's already been given his cap. He just hasn't taken it out of the brown paper bag yet.
Tom Laws.
So look, I think from that perspective, I think there's options. I don't think there's a Jimmy replacement.
Is there a bolter? Is there somebody that's just on the periphery? There's Fisher at Yorkshire who played a little bit in the West Indies, injured again.
Yeah.
Is there another flyer coming through?
Sam Cook at Essex.
Cook's interesting, isn't he?
Is he quick? Is he rapid?
No.
Right. I'm talking about. I was chatting to a senior England figure the other day, and I said, "There's got to be a raw Jimmy Anderson in club and league cricket. There has to be in this big country of ours. There must be another Jimmy Anderson." And so I'm scouring. I'm looking. I'm watching a little bit of second 11 cricket, and I'm speaking to people in Premier Leagues. Who is there? Like 19, 18, 20-year-old who's all over the place, but got a bit of pace. And I'm waiting for the answer.
But I can tell you, as an Australian, that they've been doing that for 20 years for Shane Warne.
Yeah.
And you end up looking for the wrong thing, whereas actually what you should be looking for is a different kind of player.
So, come on, we go Xavier Doherty.
Oh, we can't go through all this.
Michael Beer.
Nothing but respect for Michael Beer. He opened the bowling for Australia in Test matches and T20.
Yeah.
So, who are your 2 England bowlers to open in the bowling for England against India in the first Test in 2025?
Okay. I would go. I would probably, if it does depend on fitness, of course.
Of course, but let's say everybody's fit and injured.
So
let's say everybody's fit and not injured, and you can't. And Jofra Archer will, of course, be in there if he's available.
I would like Robertson at one end, and I would like one of the 3 quicks who is fit at the other. So be that Stone, Atkinson, or Wood at the other end.
And does Chris Wokes play?
I love Chris Wokes. Lovely. Everyone knows he's a lovely guy. We all like watching him play cricket. If you can't play outside of England, I just don't see what the point is anymore. I think they can cover him at home.
Bumble, who are you 2?
Atkinson for 1.
Yeah.
And Archer would be my 2.
Obviously you pick Archer.
Or if I want a rapid guy, and I'll look somebody like Ollie Stone. But I'm quite open, and I'll be scouring the country, the powers that be, scouring the country for a bolter. And when we're talking about a bolter, I'm talking about Bob Willis again, when they picked him in 1971 to be a replacement player from Surrey Seconds. He was playing for Surrey Twos, and he played in an international match. There's got to be that sort of player. There has to be.
Well, I think if you're looking for great fast bowlers, you are really looking for guys between the age of 19 and 21 and 22.
Agreed.
It's different with batting, right? Yeah. Batting is a little bit different.
Michael Hussey, 29.
Yeah, so, and we have had some successful late bowlers like Stuart Clark and whatever, but Stuart Clark basically, we now know, worked out the wobble ball, and he went from being a very average bowler to being maybe the world's best bowler in a couple of years. But it doesn't happen very much. Usually, Glenn McGrath. When Glenn McGrath first got picked for Australia, they went, he's not as fast as we thought he was going to be, and he doesn't have an outswinger, he'll never make it. He's never taken any Shield wickets, right? You pick young bowlers in that if you're looking for greatness. Is Atkinson a potential greatness pick? I think there's a lot of people who believe he has that upside if everything goes right. But they still have to make sure that they've got 3 other bowlers around him
Yes.
who can do the job. And so you've got to be thinking about it from that point of view. But Bumble's right. If they want to find another great bowler, but is that where England's mindset is now? Or is England's mindset more on what we want is...
It'd be mine, and I'm quite old, that I'm looking forward all the time. And the game is very vibrant.
Are you willing to have 10 years?
There has to be a bolter, and I'm all for a bolter. I want to play this guy because he's got great potential. He's going to learn rapidly, and he's going to bowl quick, and he's going to disturb him 22 yards away. It's got to be in the mindset of these people that are at the top of international cricket, looking forward. We need to find somebody like we found Jimmy Anderson, like we found Bob Willis. There has to be.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.